Hi everybody, I'm Julia Mann. I am an award-winning international eyelash extension trainer and also the owner and founder of lashtribe.com.au, and I also have the biggest Facebook group in the world called Lash Tribe, so make sure if you are not a member yet to request to join. Today I would like to talk about a topic that is probably one of the most talked about within the eyelash extension industry. If you're an eyelash technician, you know what I'm talking about: retention and the issues of the lashes not holding. So I want to clear up a few myths today, as well as give you some tips on how you can make your lashes last longer. And so let's get right into it. So the first thing that is very, very important is that your surroundings as you are doing the lashes are at the perfect temperature and the perfect humidity and perfect ventilation. So what that means is, if you, depending on the training that you had, you may or may not know about this, but lash glue actually doesn't dry by the air. So it doesn't work if you hold a fan onto the lashes for them to dry once you have put a lash onto a natural lash. The way that glue dries or sets is actually with humidity. This is called polymerization. The glue, the cyanoacrylate in it, will polymerize and get hard, and that happens with humidity. So if your room, in your lash room, is super humid, the faster the glue will set. So if you work in a room that is totally humid and you're not working fast enough to dip and get the lash on, then you will find that the client will most likely lose the lashes within the next 2 to 4 days. And that happens a lot, and people say, I've just started eyelash extensions, and every time I do a set, the clients come back to me and say, oh, my lashes have fallen out. And this is usually one of the first things that I say is your humidity at the right point? And this is something that you can check with the manufacturer of the glue, and also where you purchase your glue. If you just purchase this from like an online store or something, your supplier, you just ask them what is the best humidity as well as room temperature, because that plays a big part as well for this glue that I'm using at the moment. And the way you can regulate within your room, your lash room, is by getting a hygrometer. A hygrometer measures what humidity level is in the room, and that way you can actually regulate it. So the hygrometer doesn't regulate it. The hygrometer tells you at what humidity your room is at, and the way that you can regulate it is if your room isn't humid enough, for example, and it takes too long for the lashes to dry, you can, for example, boil a kettle while it's open, or you can go to your local pharmacy and buy a humidifier, and they're really quite cheap in Australia. They're about $50 or so. This is the sort of thing that you use when your kid is sick with bronchitis. It kind of makes the air really humid and it kind of boils as you're going. If your room is too humid, the only two options that you can use are either to have an air conditioning installed and chuck on the air conditioning. However, the risk with that is that you cool down the room too much, and then the glue will not set fast enough, because the temperature, as I said, also plays a big part. The perfect temperature in lash rooms usually vary anywhere in between 20 and 24, 25 degrees. Any higher, and the humidity being higher as well, will make the glue set too fast, and any lower, you will sit there and wait for this to dry, and then you start applying new lashes, and then you get stickies, which means neighboring lashes get stuck to each other because it's just not setting fast enough. And then when you push over the lashes, like let's say you lash this lash and it's not dried quite enough, and you isolate the next lash, you push it over, and these two will stick together because this one hasn't quite dried yet. So that is another thing you really have to take into consideration to have the right temperature as well. And the other one that you can use to make the humidity become lower, basically make sure it's not quite as humid and misty in the room, is to buy a dehumidifier. These are quite big, and they're a few $100s depending on where you get them. And these are really the only two options: to have maybe even a window open if it's really dry outside, but it wouldn't be humid in your room if it wasn't also humid outside. Usually when the outside weather hits rain and it's really humid and muggy and really yucky outside, usually your lash room automatically will kind of go more humid as well. So if you have days like that, depending on where you live in the world, here in Australia, for example, it is very, very humid at the moment. It's raining constantly. We have a cyclone coming in at the moment from up north and bringing in a lot of humidity throughout the air. So I have to have my aircon on, but I literally turn it on and off and on and off, and I regulate it still with a dehumidifier, a humidifier, and my aircon. And sometimes I even fan around the lashes. If I don't have enough humidity, another thing you can also do is soak some iPads, you can soak some little cotton rounds, cut them in half, and make sure you squeeze out the excess water and place them just underneath your eyes. And so you have that constant humidifying element going onto your eyes and lashes. If you get something to regulate the humidity that is handheld, you can get something that is called a nebulizer. A nebulizer pours out a really, really fine fog, almost a mist, with particle sizes so small that they will not lie on top of the lashes. They will actually go within the lash, and they will cure the lash glue faster. If your room isn't humid enough, this is something you can do as well. Don't get something that is has a bigger particle size than 5. This is something that you can see on the packaging when you buy it, because if you get something that is has a particle size too big, you can cause something that is called shock curing. Yeah, if you shock cure the glue, you will cause a blooming effect, and what that does is basically turn the bond of the lash to the natural lash white, and it will crack a lot easier because it's fragile and it dried too quickly. Like over curing the lashes with too much humidity is also possible, which can then also lead to premature lash loss. And then if you have the perfect humidity for your glue, but your glue is still, setting too fast, that means you're working a little bit too slow, and you just have to become a little bit faster. So you need to practice lashing as much as you can, obviously. Something else that I see happen all the time is that people don't prep the lashes properly. You need to use an eyelash extension cleanser on your clients on every single application, not just for a new set, but also for refills. We get lazy and we think, oh, I'll just put iPads on and I use a little bit of primer, but that's not enough. We need to clean with a cleanser, make it a little bit foam, and then rinse with saline solution or sterilized water. And then you can apply a primer if the client has really oily skin, which is another reason why we have premature lash loss. If the client has extremely oily skin, sometimes they have quite large pores, and you can tell it by that on the forehead, around the nose, and around the chin and the cheek, which is basically your T-zone. Yeah, I usually call it like a mirrored F zone because it goes like this. Yeah, it's not just this and this, it's also here when you're oily. And so those types of clients, they may not always be suitable for lashes, and the lashes may not last as long. So if you know that you have a really oily skin client, I always recommend to prime. Okay? I don't always prime, but with really oily skin clients, I prime a lot, and do tell them as well that their lashes may not last as long, and they will have to come back more so for refills on a regular basis, maybe every week or every 10 days, instead of coming every 2 or 3 weeks. So we've covered number 1, which is if your humidity is too high, your lash glue, as you go to the natural lash, may have already dried. They may stick to it for this 1 or 2 days, but once the client starts to brush and comb and clean their lashes, those lashes will fall off. The second one was that you don't prep the lashes properly when the client comes in, because we do need to have a blank canvas, otherwise we're not going to be able to apply the lashes. And another option for lashes to not last as long is probably the aftercare of the client. So if the client has a really, really bad aftercare, the lashes will not last as long. They may use a lot of mascara, they may use oily skincare products, which kind of don't work really well with the glue together, kind of disintegrates the glue a little bit faster. That way, it's really hard to tell, because sometimes clients don't tell us the truth about the home care that they use, but I can tell if I know I have had the perfect conditions and the lashes usually last fine, and then I have the one client out of the odd other clients where it doesn't last as long. It usually means that the client hasn't looked after the lashes very well. Usually the lashes don't fall out after 2 or 3 days, so even with their aftercare not being proper, it can take up to a week. Another point of why the lashes may fall out quicker is that your lash glue isn't fresh enough. Fresh lash glue is the best to use for the first week or two. After 3 to 4 weeks, they kind of start to polymerize within the bottle from the opening up, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, because the humidity goes within the bottle every time you open it. So the glue will start to polymerize inside, which a good way to see if the glue isn't as fresh anymore is if you just hold the bottle upside down and squeeze out a few times, and if it keeps coming out really stringy and quite thick, most of the glue's consistency should be more on a thinner side. If it's really thick and if it's over 3 or 4 weeks old, I would toss it and get a new glue, because that glue, that old glue that you're now using on those lashes, it has already started to polymerize and it's not going to last as long as fresh glue would. Another option could be that you're not applying enough glue to the eyelash extensions and they're just not bonded as well. So make sure that you practice your lashing and your application. You have to have the lash attached to the lash like that. If it's attached like that or like that, it's not going to have that bond that it needs to last, basically. Yeah. So if you apply the lashes on a really weird angle, or only a tiny bit of it is applied to the natural lash, it's gonna brush out much faster than if you were to have a really good bond where you have a good amount of glue touching the lashes. Another reason why your lashes may not last as long, and this is something that we can't really foresee, is if your client comes back after 2 or 3 weeks and they have lost almost all their lashes on one eye. First of all, it could be that you're not lashing fast enough to that eye. If you're right-handed and you're lashing the right eye, you go there much faster. If you're lashing the left eye, it will take a little bit longer to get there. So make sure that you have a good speed first of all. But the second one could be that no matter what eye uses most of the lashes, that they went through a lash shed. A lash shed basically happens when the seasons change. A lash shed can also happen with hormones. If a client is on like a hormone replacement therapy, or they take any growth hormones for their eyes, or they have eye drops that make the lashes grow faster and fall out faster and shed, then it can happen on one eye, because every lash has their own lash growth cycle. It could happen on the other eye next time. So take note of that. If a client comes back and one eye is still perfect and the other one isn't, it could be because it's applied to the eye where you take longer to go to, or it could have been a lash shed. Yeah, lash shedding also happens with stress. It is in it's hormonal imbalance. It's not just change of seasons, which most of people think that is the reason, but it's not. It could be medication they have gone on, and as I said, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is a big factor why the lashes may shed a bit faster as well. So I really hope this cleared up a little bit of the confusion about why lashes aren't lasting as long sometimes, and I really hope that you're going to work on that, work on your speed, make sure you have fresh glue, make sure that the temperature, the humidity are perfect, make sure that you cleanse properly, and make sure that you tell the client to look after the lashes appropriately as well. I see you next time. Bye.